And it's the first court day of 1-5, and we have an annoying witness to deal with. How did the investigation go yesterday, Mr. Wright? Frankly, there are still a lot of gray areas. You know, Phoenix, actual law is a ton of gray areas. Various shades of gray, but it is a gray area. Which is why I enjoy it so much. Or rather, the whole thing's one big gray area. Don't worry about me, no matter what the outcome. I'm ready to accept my fate. You look me in the eye and tell me that. I believe in you, sis! Mr. Wright, let me offer you a word of advice. Yes? A defense attorney should never believe their client. The defendant is called to trial because they are suspected of wrongdoing. Never forget that. Miss Guy, you remind me a lot of Mia. No kidding! Except you're kind of the opposite what with the believing. But there's one decisive difference between you and her. And that is? You're not a defense attorney. Oh, burn! I believe it's almost time for the trial. Good luck, Mr. Wright. My first trial without a Fae helping me. Yeah, wow. No one's going to bail me out this time. Yeah, totally not. Oh, for the love of fuck! Didn't we just get told that a Fae would not be helping you in any way? That means not even a cameo appearance of their sprite. So I have to discover the truth all by myself. The truth! Let's do it, Mr. Wright! I'll be with you the whole way! Joy bunnies. That certainly makes me feel better. The court is now in session for the trial of Miss Lana Skye. The defense is ready, Your Honor. The prosecution has been ready for a while, Your Honor. Edgeworth. I haven't been in court since Edgeworth's trial. It's been a while now. I hope that personal feelings will not be a part of the proceedings today, Mr. Wright. Oh, you have something to tell each other? I will choose the path I think is right, regardless of what those around me might say. The judgment to be made here is in our hands, not those of anyone else. Yeah! Peanut Gallery, shut your fucking mouth today! Very well, Mr. Edgeworth, the opening statement, please. Chief Prosecutor Lana Skye has committed an unpardonable crime. She wore sandals with socks. Not only this, but she was rash enough to commit it in the prosecutor's office lot. Wow, he's much more forceful in person! I suddenly feel like confessing to everything. However, she will now pay for her rashness with her life. You happy to hear that, Emma? There was a witness to a crime. A professional witness. Oh, so she's that kind of professional. Okay. Not that it's much of a surprise. Well, then call your first witness, Mr. Edgeworth. The prosecution calls its first witness, Miss Angel Starr, to the stand. The Kaffa Queen? Haven't I seen you somewhere? You ordered the caviar lunch, right? Oh, caviar! I've never eaten caviar before. The judge is really wolfing it down. Shut up, maybe he's hungry. Ah, and for you, I have a Fiesta Bowl. Thanks. Will the witness state her name and profession? Oh, and you, sir. Did you order the fingerprint lunchbox? It's too early for lunch. Your name and profession, please. Well, Your Honor, how does it taste? So this is why everyone raves about caviar. It's so tasty it hurts! I'm sure you're just tasting a lot of salty brine. I always thought caviar would taste like pickled tapioca. Okay. What the heck does pickled tapioca taste like? I don't know. I never tried it. I cooked with tapioca flour once. It didn't work out very well. Name, profession, now. Me? The name is Angel Star. Don't go forgetting it. I find myself running Lunchland these days. Is that what you wanted me to say, Mr. Edgeworth? Very well, witness. Please describe the incident to us. The prosecution will wait. I'm not finished eating. Hurry it up! Very well, Mr. Edgeworth. As you know, we usually call on the police to provide a description of the crime. Your Honor, as Mr. Edgeworth has said to the court, I am a professional. Hey? What exactly does that mean? Until 2 years ago, Miss Angel Star was a special investigator with the police. She was a first-rate homicide detective. What? Miss Star was a detective? Consider what is figured out later, this really doesn't make sense. Oh well. Oh! I know who you are. Cough up? Cough up, Queen Angel Star, Your Honor. Long time no see. Very well, you may continue with the description, Miss Star. Just who is this lady? Angel Star Lunchland lady, as well as a former Cough Up Queen homicide detective. You must pay attention, Phoenix! If I might have the court's attention over here. I don't think we're looking over here, we're looking at the boobs. The parking lot at the prosecutor's office is divided into 2 blocks. A block is for the prosecutor's office personnel. B block is for visitors and clients. A chain divider separates the 2 blocks. I suppose that's to keep visitors from taking up prosecutor spaces, yes? The crime took place by a car in the back of A block in the car's trunk. The killer stabbed the victim with a knife and went to drive the body out. Unfortunately for her, there was a witness and an arrest was made on the spot. And who was this valiant witness? Pull it together. Why, it was me, Your Honor. Witness, did you see the very moment of the crime? Of course, Your Honor. Immediately after that, I apprehended the chief prosecutor. It seems rather cut and dry, doesn't it? Well, Mr. Wright? I can't agree on principle, Your Honor. It seems that some poor losers are unwilling to accept the truth, Your Honor. Shall I proceed to crush what little hope they have remaining? If you can, then give them your worst, Miss Star. Wait, are they talking about me? No, I think they're talking about the legal aid on your side that once again shouldn't be there since you have no purpose. Somehow, I always knew a day like this would come. I was on my way to deliver a lunchbox to my boyfriend. When I sensed something, perhaps it was my finely honed detective instincts working. Then, through a wire fence, I saw the chief prosecutor standing next to a garish car. The chief prosecutor was holding a knife in her right hand. Then she thrust the pointed tip of the knife into Detective Goodman's chest. Bringing a lunchbox to your boyfriend? How touching! As you can see, there is no room for doubt. The key point of your testimony seems to be nothing other than the point of the knife which you saw being stabbed into Detective Goodman. You're funny, Your Honor. You're funny. So, how does it feel to be so utterly crushed? I'm still thinking about that. It's merely a flesh wound, Mr. Wright. You're a loony. Very well, Mr. Wright. You may cross-examine the witness. How did you know? I respect the prosecutor's basic abhorrence of crime. Yet their methods are ugly and twisted. Twisted methods will always lead to a tragedy. The lunch lady's uninformed opinion is duly noted. Given that they are used to erasing inconvenient evidence at their whim. Killing off a detective that knew too much is merely an extension of that. Miss Starr, do you have something personal against prosecutors? I felt that I had found my dream job when I became an investigator. And if I hadn't been laid off by those prosecutors over there, I'd still be one. Laid off? She was fired. To me, prosecutors are nothing more than worms. That said, I am a pro, as you know. My testimony's unbiased and flawless. Very well. You may continue, Miss Starr. This boyfriend, he's a detective? Not that boyfriend. The security guard. That boyfriend? You have several? Yes. This boyfriend, that boyfriend, and the other boyfriend. Each more real than the last one. Totally. Care to join? The yet another boyfriend position is still open for applicants. I'll stick with the lunch, thanks. Note to self, the judge had to think before replying. The security guard room was on a lot in A block. It's up on the second level, so you can see everything from there. That would be the room with the security sign. Genius, Phoenix! Incidentally, did you bring your lunch boxes by car? Since I'm a visitor now, I parked in B block. So, she was in B block when she witnessed the crime. Oh, Emma, you're jumping ahead a few testimonies. Just you wait. You sensed something? So you're saying you had a premonition of the murder? It felt like... how would you say? Oh yes. It was like the feeling you get when you view a pumpkin chock full of seeds. Party pumpkin? I have no idea what that means. Speaking of a detective's instincts, wasn't the victim, Mr. Bruce Goodman, also a detective? Yes, well, he was like a young cheese. A young cheese? A pale white cheese, not yet tangy with experience on the streets. A greenhorn. I, of course, am hard yellow, sharp as a tack. I bet you stink, too. In any case, there in the lot, I felt something stirring in the back of my mind. By garish car, you mean... Mr. Edgeworth's car, yes. Mr. Edgeworth's? Incidentally, the knife with which the victim was stabbed was also Mr. Edgeworth's. Wasn't it? Indeed it was. What an odd case this is. And the person you saw, you are sure it was the defendant? I saw her from no further than 30 feet away. I'm certain it was her. If she's telling the truth, we're doomed! Let's just do what we can. Even if we don't have your proof, we can always complain! Witness, in your testimony you clearly stated the following. Prosecutors are nothing more than worms. Ergo... Oh, now we're stealing Edgeworth's words. You are a biased witness. I think every witness ever in the game has been biased. You might want to keep those silly opinions to yourself in the future, Rookie. Huh? Rookie? Unless you're willing to risk the consequences of doubting me. I'll fry you like a fritter, crispy on the outside, chewy on the inside. That was inspiring. I believe I've heard that tagline elsewhere. You could cry plagiarism? I may be relegated to the lowly post of lunch lady, but my instincts are honed. Photograph? You took this? The moment I witnessed the crime, my reflexes took over and snap. I took a picture. In fact, one of my lunchboxes is rigged with a camera. I suppose that's more exciting than just hanging around your neck. This is my first time seeing this photograph. You think I'd show it to you, a prosecutor? Think again. My boyfriend works in the photography division of criminal affairs. But this is most certainly the defendant. Yes, it is. No, this is unmistakably Lana Skye. So, what was the defendant doing at the time? Take a look at the fucking picture, you can see what she's doing. Tell me more about this knife that the suspect was carrying. Well, I'd say the blade was about 10 centimeters long. Is that right, Mr. Edgeworth? It is your knife, after all. Yes, that's about right. Prosecutors are by nature well versed in the location of a man's vital organs. They are? I'm sure it was easier than boiling an egg for my egg salad surprise set. You can't testify as to her ability to kill an egg, a person. Perhaps a chicken salad set would have been a better metaphor? So the defendant was holding a knife. What then? By the way, they were not talking about the knife earlier. Also, yes, Angel Star does food puns. It gets infuriating after a while. Tell the court why you didn't try to stop the crime. You did see her raise the knife to strike, no? The defense has a point. Unfortunately, by the time I realized what was going on, it was already too late. Too late? Yes. The next moment, the chief prosecutor brought down the murder weapon. I see. It's only a flesh wound, Mr. Wright. We can make it. You said that before. Anything else? Scientifically speaking, Miss Starr's testimony is flawless. Sounds pretty fatal to me. What do we do? Is this it? Is my sister guilty? Let's just keep our heads cool and press the witness a bit, shall we? For some reason, having her panic next to me makes me calmer. Don't smile like that! No. Oops. Too far. And you witnessed this? You saw Miss Skye stab the victim with a knife? As I've already said, yes. I swear it on my finest salmon swirl lunch. I'm sure that is a fine lunch. But isn't that odd? Look at the photograph. This is the photograph you took of the very moment of the crime, is it not? Then why is Miss Skye not holding a knife? Mr. Edgeworth, your thoughts? Objection. Let's be a little more careful with our evidence, shall we? It's you that needs to be more careful, Mr. Wright. What do you mean, Mr. Edgeworth? This photograph was not taken the moment before the stabbing. This was taken the moment after the stabbing. And how can you tell that? Blood splatter. Huh? See the dark crimson stain on the chief prosecutor's coat? Actually, since this is black and white, it looks black, but yes, it's a dark stain. It's a black and white photograph! Oh, yes, it's hard to tell, but this could be blood. Well, Mr. Wright, I see no problem here. No problem, except you. Mr. Wright, are you going to just sit there and take that kind of abuse? Well, it's part of their relationship. It really spices things up later on. Oh, you got a better idea? I'm gonna object. Wait, that contradicts what the witness said in her testimony. Namely, that she took the picture the moment she witnessed the crime. Well, it seems I was slightly unclear. My apologies. That's it? If you run out of lunch, you order seconds. Problem solved. If you don't like it, try ordering the jumbo size lunch from the get-go. Good advice. I'm not sure I understood it, but good advice. I didn't have time to stop her. Prosecutor Skye was cold, calculating like a robot. She killed without pain or remorse. It was a premeditated murder. Premeditated? How do you know? Look at the Chief Prosecutor's hands in that photograph. Well, are those gloves? Surgical gloves made of thin rubber, most likely. Why would she have those on? Maybe she's like the one character from Skip Beat who, if he touches electronical things without gloves, they cease to function within 10 seconds. Yes, that's true. If it was not premeditated, she would not be wearing those gloves. Quite frankly, aren't surgical gloves white? Or at least cream? Why are hers dark? These gloves do seem to tell a tale of premeditation. Premeditated murder, a serious offense. Witness, add this to your testimony. What if she was just in the habit of wearing gloves? Like driving gloves? The gloves were admitted as evidence when the defendant was arrested. Why do I not have them then? They were rubber gloves of the kind used for autopsies. In other words, when the chief prosecutor came to the crime scene, she came to do murder. It's the only possible conclusion one can make. Everything was planned. It was a premeditated crime. Yo! Impressive. I'm sorry they took you off the force, mister. This is bad. She's got them thinking this was all planned. If she can prove this claim, the trial's already over. I wish it was. Got to think my way to show that this wasn't premeditated. It's only a flesh wound. Yeah, let's do this again. There. Witness, do you know what this is? Are you trying to test me? I sell box lunches for a living, you know. That's a knife. The knife. The knife that was in Mr. Edgeworth's trunk. Indeed, it is my knife. How is this the case? Bloody murder weapon, a red car, all belonging to the prosecutor there. The defendant is the chief prosecutor for the district, right? Our prosecutor's bad, people! The defense has a request. We ask that the witness provide an accurate testimony. Like they'll ever do that! You can't demand or ask something like that. You're the freaking defense attorney. In your testimony, you stated that Lana Skye planned this murder. And that's why she was wearing those special gloves. Seems like a natural conclusion to me. The gloves do indicate planning. However, why would she not also prepare the most important thing? The murder weapon? 'Cause if she brought her own type of knife, it could lead back to her, and using a random one generally found at the crime scene does not bring suspicion on her. Technically, this actually makes sense. The knife just happened to be in the trunk of the car. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're going to plan a murder, you don't forget the weapon. And I already pointed out that... Yep, whatever. Order! Great, now the tide is turning in our favor. Great show, Mr. Wright. My sister just got us free. Unfortunately, she hasn't. Right. I believe the next lunch you'll be eating is humble pie. Oh, Edgy got me good. What? I hope you weren't deluding yourself into thinking that the tide has turned. Oh, Edgeworth can read Phoenix's thoughts. Not over such a trifling detail. But this shoots a hole in the whole premeditated theory. The prosecution could care less if it was premeditated or not. And he's absolutely right with that. In this world, it doesn't matter if something is self-defense or premeditated or homicide. You get killed for that. The only one who seems to care is that lunch lady over there. The defendant, Lana Skye, murdered a detective with a knife. That is the only thing the prosecution needs to prove. Nothing else. Very good, Mr. Prosecutor. I suppose you think you're clever now? But you know as well as I do that she planned on killing him. It was planned. If she wasn't, why would she have been wearing... I believe I'd like to hear your testimony again. Witness, please tell us only what you saw, not what you thought. How dare you! My powers of deduction are not to be underestimated. Really now? Lana Skye intended to murder Detective Goodman. That's why she called the victim all the way to the prosecutor's office. I'm sure the chief prosecutor had a grudge against the victim. Nothing else could drive a human machine to plunge a knife in again and again. The victim was summoned from the police department to the prosecutor's office. It does sound a lot like premeditation, doesn't it? So, if I order pizza, does anyone plan to kill the delivery boy? In this world, yes. In any case, the defense may now cross-examine the witness. You said that, but you haven't told us how you know. That's what I'm about to tell you, rookie. I believe what she just said was a mere prelude to the story she was about to tell. Try to not interrupt her again. Rookie? Never interrupt a storyteller. It's like pulling a bun out of the oven half-baked. Something's half-baked here, right, and it's you! Try to not confuse the defense witness. They're not very quick on their feet. Now, why did you believe the suspect had intention to murder the victim? Her actions speak for themselves. You have no proof that Miss Skye called him there. You have no proof that she didn't. Mr. Edgeworth's thoughts? There is no record of a call made on the defendant Miss Lana Skye's phone. She might have written him a letter. Yeah, 2016, when this takes place, everybody still writes a letter. We still write letters, right? Come on, you could have tried public phone first, at least. In any case, the victim came to the prosecutor's office where he was murdered. I'm sure you had a reason to be there. Witness? Why do you think it was the suspect who summoned the victim that day? What kind of grudge? Well, I wouldn't know that. Of course you don't! That's because you didn't have a grudge. Rookie? I have a lunchbox here. Now, what's inside? How am I supposed to know? See, we agree there is a lunchbox here, but we don't know what's inside. A person's life is like a lunchbox with pretzels. Don't you agree? Well, if you asked me what's inside a lunchbox, I'd probably say... edible stuff. Vague, but I would be correct. Oh, I get it. That's why my lunch was so salty. This judge isn't very good with metaphors. The suspect had a grudge against Detective Goodman. Will you tell us your basis for thinking this? It's simple. You say she stabbed him again and again, but you couldn't have witnessed that. Are you testing me? Then I'll test you. With my moss surprise. I'm afraid the moss is growing under our feet as we wait, Miss Starr. What do you mean? I shouldn't have to explain this, but take a look. The autopsy report states that death was due to a loss of blood from one stab wound. Considering what we learn in the later part of this case, this one stab wound still doesn't make sense. Oh, you're right. Good show, Mr. Edgeworth.
What a hunk! He's my hero, really!
What about my ejection? No one noticed? Oh, please. People would only notice if you, like, become Edgeworth. Well, witness? You got the crime scene set, right? Thanks. I always believed that no one could ever mistake ketchup for blood. But now I realize that such mistakes are possible. So, you're saying you mistook something for blood? When she lifted her knife, I thought I saw blood at her breast. Splattered blood from her victim. That's why I thought she must have stabbed him at least twice. Then tell us what you saw that you thought was blood. Testify! Her red muffler? Yes, like a scarf. The chief prosecutor always wears one around her neck. So she can be easily hanged at a moment's notice, I suppose. She's right. Miss Guy was wearing a red scarf, wasn't she? But wait, isn't it odd that you mistook that for splattered blood? Well, people often mistake my beard for a bib. A judge with a bib. That's why this place feels so much like kindergarten sometimes. This coming from the guy who had the option to say, "That's not fair!" Actually, I do think I saw some traces of blood on her chest. However, the autopsy report is clear on this matter. There was only one knife wound. Apparently, Miss Starr isn't entirely sure of her own testimony.
Mr. Wright, this is a chance!
Chance for what, I wonder? Miss Starr has turned out to be as short-tempered as she looked when we first met. Challenging her ability as a detective really set her off.
The short weight burns out the fastest. It's a scientific fact.
I wonder, wouldn't it depend on the size of the candle? I mean, add more wax, and even a really short wick will burn longer.
Obviously, more scientific testing is required.
I almost presented floor plans. Miss Starr, I demand an The witness is clearly not suited for detective work. What? The suspect was not wearing a scarf or muffler of any kind when she stabbed the victim. And you've proven it yourself. With this photograph. Yes, I think... one of us here is wrong, either me or the translation. But that can't be. Only a true professional could be so clueless. I'm sure you'll make a good lunch lady, have no fear. Harsh words, but good.
In the end, Mr. Edgeworth prevails.
What was my objection? Chopped liver?
But what's there? A scarf? Not that, but something red. Really?
Well now, where were we? The witness has given us an entertaining interlude. Now back to business. What? Very well, witness. Continue your testimony. You saw the crime and apprehended the suspect. Tell us about that.
Very well. I do remember some things accurately, at least.
Ultimately, we couldn't check the most important part of her testimony.
The most important part?
The part where her sister stabs the victim. This next testimony might just be the moment of truth. After the murder, the suspect attempted to run behind a partition off to her side. I quickly caught her, explained her rights to her, and arrested her on the spot. Ah, yes. When I arrested her, she mentioned the muffler. That's what had me confused in my earlier testimony. The chief prosecutor made to escape, but against Angel Starr, resistance is futile. You are quite determined about the scarf, aren't you?
I strike like a snake and bite like a cobra. That's me, Angel Star. That wasn't a very good metaphor. First of all, a cobra is a kind of snake. Don't bother me with details unless you want to get bitten. No thanks! Note to self, Attorney Wright gets bitten by snake. Yes, and then Edgeworth sucks out the poison. The chief prosecutor tried to resist, but her efforts were in vain. She knocked my hands aside, kicked over an oil drum. Oil drum? Hard to imagine. No, she's beautiful but deadly. A predator, this one. A leopard woman, rawr!
Very well, Mr. Wright, your cross-examination, if you will. So, where's the partition on the floor plans? I'm sure she means the wall next to the car. That's right. There was a wall there, about 6 feet high. She was obviously trying to hide herself. Quite a natural thing for a criminal to do. And what did you do then? You say quickly, were you close to the suspect? As I just said, I was only 30 feet away from her the whole time. Maybe I should press it for more details? I'd like to see this on floor plans, just to be safe. The Lunchland car was... She was a visitor, thus she was parked in B block. So you witnessed the murder from here? That would make it about 30 feet away from the car, yes. Is that correct, Miss Starr? Yes, that's right. But there was a chain link fence in front of you? I went over it, of course. Amazing. The Kappa Queen lunch lady athlete indeed. It would have taken her a little time to climb over the fence, so she couldn't have gotten to my sister that fast. Yeah, that fence was about 9 feet high, too. How come this guy didn't get away? Yeah. She mentioned the muffler. What exactly did she say? If I remember exactly, I would have had told you in my testimony. Shaky. Anyway, all I heard her say was the word muffler. Just that one word? So, what you heard wasn't the suspect talking to you, but to someone else? Yes, the chief prosecutor was talking on her phone. Her phone? You mean the cell phone? By phone, do you mean the cell phone discovered at the crime scene? Yes, ultimately. Ultimately? My memory... It's like a salmon heading upstream, you see. No, the court doesn't see this story. The chief prosecutor first attempted to use the phone hanging on the wall. On the wall? That's right. Near the car, there was an emergency phone on the wall. Apparently it was out of order. And so she used her cell phone? Indeed, the emergency phone was out of order that day. That seems kind of bad, an emergency phone being out of order. Good witnessing, witness! Good witnessing? Whatever happened to good testifying? You should of course add this to your testimony. The things I do to please this rookie defense attorney. Do you think you could restate your testimony for the court? Oh, I was going to ask the same thing. I'll only say this one time, so listen closely, rookies. The chief prosecutor stabbed the victim and ran behind the partition. Then she picked up the emergency phone on the wall, but it was out of order. So she pulled her own cell phone out of her pocket. And during that time, you climbed over the chain link fence. Then, when I boldly grabbed her arm, The chief prosecutor hung up her phone. And you saw her doing this?
What is it, Mr. Wright?
I have to conclude that you have a personal grudge against Miss Lana Skye. No kidding, what gave you that idea? The witness is a former detective. Her testimony is unmarred by personal bias. Well, who would have thought you would be my knight in shining armor, prosecutor? You, who together with the chief prosecutor kicked me out 2 years ago. Well, Miss Starr, this is a fatal contradiction with your testimony. How do you explain this? I don't know what you're talking about. Mess with me, and I'll make you cough it all up. Let's look at the floor plans. You said you witnessed a crime from this point. However, if that's true, you couldn't possibly have seen Miss Skye making that phone call. I believe you see what I'm getting at. That emergency phone was on the back side of the partition. If indeed you were in B block, you couldn't have seen it. What is the meaning of this? It's simple, Your Honor. She's not coughing up lunch, she's coughing up lies. That's quite a claim, Mr. Wright. Perhaps you will allow me to a question. Tell us exactly what lie this witness has told the court. Here's where the counterattack begins. I can't afford to get this wrong. The witness lied about... If she tried to use the emergency phone, but it was out of order. What is significant about this fact? Nothing. It would be pointless for her to lie about it. Pointless to lie, I see. The witness did actually see Miss Skye using the emergency phone. In other words, Miss Starr witnessed the crime from a different location. A different location? Now that's a pointless lie if I ever heard one. Before you call my lie pointless, at least let me tell it. You tell him, Phoenix. Let me ask a question to our clever wordsmith, Mr. Wright. Just where was the witness when she saw the crime? All the testimony we've heard up until now points in one direction. The place from where Miss Skye witnessed this crime was here. This is the only place where she could have been. The security guard room? Indeed, the security room in the underground parking lot is well positioned. It's built on the second level so you can see the entire lot. She would have been able to see the emergency phone from there. But why there? There are many other places where she could have seen the phone. Not in this case, Your Honor. The witness, not being part of the prosecutor's office, couldn't park in A block. The only place where she could have seen the crime and the back of the partition is here. I remember in your testimony you said you brought her lunch to your boyfriend in the security guard room, yes? Well, Miss Starr? How many years have I been getting the better of men? To think that the tables could be turned. Today a man has got the better of Angel Starr. What have you done? You used to be a detective, you should know better. I'm not turning back. The guilty will be punished. And I'll do what I must to make sure justice prevails. The guilty... Is she talking about Miss Skye? No, see, she's absolutely talking about herself.
Mr. Wright, doesn't this strike you as odd? Why did Miss Starr lie? It doesn't make sense.
Huh?
She could have just said she saw the crime from the security guard station. It wouldn't change anything.
Exactly. This photograph tells all. It was the defendant who stabbed the victim. This photo, thanks for showing it, makes no sense. Okay, soon enough Angel will admit that she saw it from the security room, tried to go down to A block, couldn't, had to go around to B block, climb there and grab, you know, Lana from that way. This doesn't make sense since she apparently saw her use the phone, which is after having stabbed the guy. So this photo doesn't make sense. I mean, for one, it's already dumb that, you know, Star ran around to B Block, took a picture of something that technically already happened, and then climbed over and apprehended her. Taking a photo is already pretty dumb. But this apparently takes place before she runs behind the partition to use the phone, so this photo shouldn't exist. That truth still stands. It still stands. I disagree, Mr. Edgeworth. In fact, my boner pretty much disappeared now. What? If a witness is found to be lying, they're guilty of perjury. She knows this. Perjury? That sort of thing doesn't happen here. She wouldn't risk that without a good reason. So, tell us what her reason was, Mr. Wright. Huh? Me? Who else?
Mr. Wright, let's review what we know.
Miss Starr witnessed the crime from the security guard station. But she lied and said she saw it from B Block. It must make a vital difference, but what? What would change? The angle at which she saw the crime occur would change. The angle? What do you mean? Well, the security guard station is on the second floor, and she would have sort of a more 3D view of the crime. And this is important. Why? Perhaps you'd like to be considered, Mr. Wright.
Mr. Wright, let's review what we know.
Let's do it again. It changes the distance between her and the scene of the crime. My condolences, Mr. Wright, but one look at the floor plans and it's quite clear. The distance between the scene of the crime and the guard station is 30 feet. I don't see how that would change what she could see. What she saw isn't a question here. What matters is the time it would take her to reach the scene of the crime. Miss Starr, you witnessed the crime from the security guard station. How long did it take you to go from there to the scene of the crime where you arrested Miss Skye? Well, witness? You... Yes?
You ordered the squid wheels, right?
Looks like rubber bands.
The quality of my lunches has gone from low to inedible. I was bringing a PB&J lunch with fresh boysenberries jam to my boyfriend.
Boysenberry for the boyfriend.
He wasn't in the station, so I waited. I witnessed the crime from the Glassworld station. And before I knew what I was doing, I found myself running towards the scene. But the door was locked. I couldn't open it. That's why I had to go through the visitors' parking in Block B.
That's quite a detour, especially on your high heel stilettos. Quite a feat. Then again, I can run on high heels as well, so...
It probably took me at least 5 minutes to get to the scene of the crime.
5 minutes? This changes things considerably. But it was that woman over there in the defendant's chair who stabbed him. I know it. I have photographic evidence. I already pointed out how the photo shouldn't work. I swear it. I swear it on my finest plastic spork. You have a point, and the spork is a wonderful invention. I never used it to date.
Would you like another caviar lunch?
Absolutely.
Oh. Mr. Wright, you have to do something! Do I have any evidence to stop this?
Then, when in doubt, object.
5 minutes between the witnessing of the murder and the arrest. Think about it. You could make pasta in that amount of time, if you like it al dente. I've got lunchboxes to tie pasta into knots, rookie. A 5-minute blank. Isn't that strange? Strange. If you were a criminal, what would you do with 5 minutes, Your Honor?
Well, I guess I'd flee the scene. Hey! Don't get the wrong idea. I didn't kill anyone.
But you have the instincts of a killer. You would run, but this time was different. Miss Skye dawdled at the scene of the crime. She even had her picture taken. No true criminal would act this way. It's inconceivable. You know, we're 51 minutes in. I'd like to think that we are at the end, but we aren't. I still remember some other parts that have to appear. But... well, there is also another person coming up here, but I'm trying to think just how fast that part can take. And I'm gonna finish off Angel Star. I don't really want to.
She has a grudge against the defendant, and there is a blank in her testimony. Mr. Edgeworth is the next witness ready to go.
Unfortunately, I appear to have overestimated this witness on account of her professional history. We did it! We screwed that can shut, Mr. Wright! That was too close.
I'm afraid that the Confab Queen has been dethroned. And with that, court is adjourned.
And... yeah. Mr. Edward, you ordered the squid wheels, right? That's the one she tried to foist off on me! I prefer to not take the defense's team's leftovers. Except when it's Larry, and I prefer to pretend that thing never happened. Anything else to say? I might be able to save you. I have decisive evidence.
What was that?
Is this another one of her trick lunchboxes?
My apologies, but we have no further questions to ask of you, Miss Starr.
Is this your jumbo lunchbox? Those are 3 lunchboxes in one. That's not one giant one. So really, false advertising.
Woohoo! A triple ticker! Out of deference to the witness's determination, I'll allow one more testimony. Let's hear about this decisive evidence.
Like the Lunchland motto says, you won't be disappointed. What's she going to pull out of her lunchbox this time? I don't want to know what she puts out of her lunch. I mean her box. Damn it, that didn't work. I should have mentioned those 5 minutes when I wasn't looking at the crime scene. And now, to the matter of the victim's shoe. Did I not bring this up? 2 tubs of blood were found on the shoe. One was, of course, the victim's. And the other was the defendant, Miss Lana Skye's blood. This shoe proves it. It's flawless, decisive evidence.
What? There was blood found in that shoe?
Try Lunchland for all your lunch decisive evidence needs. Witness, what's the meaning of this? Why is this the first time I've heard of this evidence? Simple, as I've already said. I don't trust you with evidence, Mr. Edgeworth. That's why I took the liberty of investigating this myself. And you had blood tests performed? Didn't I mention? I have 3 boyfriends in forensics. In any case, Your Honor, I can't accept this as evidence. What? You should know the 2 rules of evidence law, Miss Stars. Yeah, this is... Remember in 1.4 when it brought contempt of court? This is the other case where they're trying to put actual real-life law into this game and doesn't work. If you want to restrict me with proper world rules, you have to put them in all the cases, not just in one when it's convenient. It actually doesn't make any fucking sense in this case. Rule 1. No evidence shall be shown without the approval of the police department. In other words, this shoe is illegal evidence, at least for the time being.
Is that right, Mr. Wright?
It seems so. Edgeworth sure is celebrating.
Not so fast, Mr. Edgeworth.
Don't forget, I used to be a detective. As I mentioned previously, this shoe has already been tested by a member of the forensics department. As you can see, it was approved by the police department as of today. Even the general public can produce official evidence, Mr. Edgeworth.
Is that right, Mr. Edgeworth? Mr. Wright?
It seems so. Edgeworth's looking pretty sullen.
You could at least study some evidence law seriously.
The prosecution's complaints notwithstanding, it appears that this evidence satisfies the first rule of evidence law. Well, it seems you have yet another count against your witness.
Anything to ensure that the guilty are properly judged. Considering later... I'm gonna say something about this.
Very well, Mr. Wright. You may cross-examine the witness.
I'm pretty sure this is the end of this.
So, you brought it to the forensic department?
If you're going to submit something as evidence in court, you need it approved. To do that, evidence must be analyzed by a forensics expert. And she got away with a little coup because she used to be a detective.
If the shoe does appear to have bloodstains on it.
Makes sense. After all, a man was stabbed here.
And that blood belonged to the victim, Detective Goodman?
As I said, there were 2 types of blood found on the shoe.
Yeah, let's look at the shoe.
This blood, it's my sister's, right?
It appears so. Lana's right hand was bandaged when I saw her in jail. She must have cut herself at the time of the crime.
Poor sis. Ew! There's blood here, too!
On the sole of the shoe. It's got to be the victim's. He must have stepped in a puddle of his own blood.
All this blood, it's horrible.
That doesn't look like a whole lot of blood, honey.
This blood might be an important clue.
I can't let this evidence go through without a fight. You ordered the peppered fish guts, right?
Some like it hot, Mr. Wright. Some, like your client, she's in enough hot water to make a whole batch of soup. Mr. Wright, do you or don't you have a problem with the shoe?
A problem? This is critical. What's wrong with the victim's shoe? Sure, there's a problem.
If I'm not imagining things,
I'd say there is one critical problem with this evidence. A clear contradiction.
That gleam in your eyes. You're still young, rookie. I'd give you a peppered fish guts now, but you couldn't take the heat, could you?
Let's hear what Mr. Wright has to say. What is contradictory about the victim's shoe? Show us the problem with this evidence.
I wonder if you noticed, there's blood on the bottom of the shoe. Don't mess with me, rookie, or it'll be your blood on the bottom of my shoe.
Indeed, there is quite a bit of blood on the bottom of the shoe.
It makes sense. The victim was stabbed with a knife. What could possibly be contradictory about blood on the bottom of the shoe? The problem lies in the footprint. The footprint? Note that the bottom of the victim's shoe is covered in blood. Then, isn't it strange? Why weren't any bloody footprints found by the scene of the crime?
Oh!
As you can see, there were no traces of any such footprints at the scene of the crime. Just pointing out, technically, we can't see the bottom right-ish part of the floor in this photograph. Technically, there could be a pool of blood there. Technically. So, not quite a contradiction. That contradicts your claim about the shoe. This picture only shows part of the floor, so there could have been bloody footprints. If there were bloody prints, they would have been found. We checked the scene and found nothing of the sort. Well, witness? What?
Great going, Mr. Wright, but it's true that the lack of a footprint is a contradiction, but then we have to ask why there wasn't a footprint.
Oh. That's true, there has to be a reason why there wasn't a footprint.
Think, Mr. Wright, think!
Hey, I don't know why it's not there. I'm just good at finding contradictions.
What?
I see. Now I get it.
Get what?
Our witness is more devious than I gave her credit for. We were hoodwinked to the very end. But she slipped. There's one vital hint of the truth in her testimony. What are you talking about? Think back to when she told us about apprehending the suspect. The chief prosecutor tried to resist, but her efforts were in vain. She knocked my hands aside, not kicked over an oil drum. Oh, she's beautiful but deadly. A predator, this one. A leopard woman. Rawr! I thought that was a strange thing for the normally cool-headed chief to do. No kidding. Now, witness, allow me to ask a very simple question. This oil drum, was it empty? Oh, that. I'm not sure I like your attitude, Mr. Edgeworth. Though apparently you're not the slowest conveyor belt in the lunchbox factory. Witness? Well, was the oil drum empty? The oil drum kicked over by the chief prosecutor was brimming with water. Depending on the amount of water, yes, I guess you can splash away majority of blood that way. Water? What does that mean? Think. Still don't get it, Mr. Wright. Do you want to know the reason she knocked it over? The real reason? Oh, you don't mean... Yes, the suspect knocked over that oil drum for one reason and one reason alone. To erase the bloodstains that would become evidence against her.
Whoa!
That ties things up quite nicely. The bloodstains left on the victim's shoe tie quite clearly to this murder. Then, after the deed was done, she knocked over the oil drum to erase the telltale signs. Why, that's a prosecutor's specialty, erasing evidence. That reminds me, Miss Guy's right hand was hurt. Did she say she'd cut herself when she stabbed him?
So, my sister's blood's on the shoe. That's when it happened?
Well, I see no reason to prolong this trial.
Mr. Wright, do something, please!
What? What can I do?
Your sister has confessed to the crime and she tried to conceal it. But...
Enough. There's no need for further debate. The verdict, Your Honor. Very well.
But Angel Star's on the prosecution's side.
Like every other witness?
She could have been lying about the water.
This court finds the defendant Miss Lana Skye. Thank you. Little girl, what did you just say?
Huh? Me?
Did you say that I, Angel Star, was on the prosecution's side?
Well, yeah, you are. You're saying my sister hid evidence by erasing the bloody footprints.
Well, I thought you'd had your fill, but here you are demanding a second helping. I do not want a second helping. I want you to shut up. Another lunchbox. A lunchbox called evidence. Wait, witness, don't tell me you have something else.
Why can't these people shut the fuck up? You've reached your verdict, Your Honor. Any further comments will be held in contempt of court. Your threats don't scare the cough up queen. Look at this.
A photograph?
Yes, as you can see here, the body is lying in the trunk, not falling out of it. I had this just in case anyone had the gall to suggest that the white shoe didn't belong to the victim. Look, Goodman already is known for wearing all white. Despite Miss Manners saying that you can't do it after Memorial Day and before Labor Day or around that one of those things, so yeah, there is no doubt about it anyway.
I see no room for error in this evidence.
Mr. Wright, wait, look at the asphalt in this photo. It's clearly wet.
Erasing the last trace of doubt from the court's mind. Immediately after the murder, the crime scene was washed with water.
I'm sorry, Mr. Wright. I guess I couldn't help after all. It's not your fault. I knew I couldn't win this case from the beginning. And yet you went for it because... And it seems this is what your sister wanted anyway. I'm sorry, Mia. Oh, for the love of fuck!
Oh, this is my first case without a Fae helping me or being on my side, and I have to do this on my own. Nope!
Mia still gives him fucking boob visions. This is the last piece of evidence.
Very well, this time I'd like to declare a verdict for good.
Your Honor, wait.
What is it with you people? Can't I hand down my verdicts in peace anymore?
No, you can't. You have my sympathy, Honor.
Whatever it is, can it wait?
No, it can't, then it'll be too late. Look at the photograph, the last one submitted. This trial isn't over until we give each piece of evidence proper consideration. So right. Are you saying there's a problem with this latest piece of evidence? Yeah, I'll think later. Yeah, there's a problem. Right or wrong, I've got to go ahead with this.
I suppose since we've come this far, we should give every claim a fair shake. Very well, Mr. Wright. Show the court the problem in this photograph.
The problem in this photograph is here. What's that? There's something poking out of the car's muffler.
Wait just a moment, Mr. Edwards.
Your Honor.
You just said muffler. However, I see no trace of a muffler or a scarf or any of this kind in the photograph.
A muffler is also a part on a car or motorcycle, Your Honor. Just think of it as part of the exhaust system. A pipe.
I see. And I see. What's that suspicious looking cloth sticking out of the car's muffler?
So what if there's something sticking out of the muffler? What does it have to do with the case? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Sorry, Miss Starr, but it's not going to be that easy. In fact, you've already told us why this is important to the case. You said as much in your testimony.
Let's hear what Mr. Wright has on his mind. And tell us why you think this piece of cloth in the muffler is related to the case.
Miss Starr, recall your testimony for the court. Ah, yes, when I arrested her, she mentioned the muffler. That's what had me confused in my earlier testimony.
Muffler? Could it be that the muffler you heard mentioned was actually the exhaust pipe? If so, that means this piece of cloth is vital evidence. Well, it seems we will have to suspend the proceedings. Suspend? I find myself wondering about that piece of cloth. If we leave any question unanswered here, we do a disservice to the law. Have the car at the crime scene inspected at once and bring me that cloth. The verdict will wait until after we've seen all the evidence. Agreed? I suppose so. That was close. But we made it. At least for now. The court will adjourn for a 30-minute recess. It's lunchtime after all. He's still hungry?